that a 17-year-old girl, who fell from 10,000 feet in the middle of the Amazon jungle, survived alone in the dangerous jungle for 11 days.
Hello friends.
On December 24, 1971, from Lima, the capital of Peru. There were 86 passengers on board, and the plane was heading toward the city of Pucallpa, flying over the Amazon rainforest.
The first half hour of the journey was completely normal.
The crew served breakfast, the pilots chatted about their families, and the passengers were cheerful because the next day was Christmas.
Everyone was traveling to meet their loved ones.
But as the plane began preparing for descent, dark clouds suddenly covered the sky.
A terrifying storm appeared ahead.
The pilots decided not to avoid the storm and instead flew straight into it.
Within minutes, darkness surrounded the aircraft.
Lightning began flashing violently, and the plane started shaking due to extreme turbulence. The turbulence became so severe that luggage from the overhead compartments began falling onto the passengers.
Panic spread everywhere.
For nearly 20 minutes, the plane continued shaking violently. Then, at an altitude of 21,000 feet, lightning struck the aircraft.
The lightning hit the right wing, causing it to catch fire.
Within seconds, the right wing broke off completely, and part of the left wing also tore away. Just 15 minutes before landing in Pucallpa, at around 10,000 feet, the plane began to break apart mid-air.
Air traffic controllers on the ground suddenly saw the aircraft's dot disappear from their radar. At first, some hoped it had made an emergency landing, but it soon became clear that the plane had completely crashed. This led to the largest search operation in Peru's history. Days later, rescue workers reached the crash site deep inside the Amazon jungle. Aircraft wreckage was scattered everywhere. Passengers' belongings hung from trees. Suitcases had burst open in mid-air, and Christmas gifts dangled from branches like decorations on Christmas trees. Rescue operations continued for days, but no survivors were found. Eventually, it was assumed that everyone on board had died. After all, who could survive a fall from 10,000 feet? But that assumption was wrong. Unknown to the world, one passenger was still alive. A lone survivor. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, miles away from any human settlement, a 17-year-old girl named Juliane Koepcke was still alive. It was nothing short of a miracle. However, she was alone, injured, and stranded in the jungle. No one was coming to look for her, the rescue teams had already stopped searching. Her family and the world believed she was dead. Juliane had been traveling with her mother, Maria, to the Panguana Biological Research Station, which had been established by Juliane's parents, both zoologists. The family planned to celebrate Christmas together there. Originally, they were supposed to travel earlier, but Juliane had to stay back for her school prom and graduation. Because of the Christmas rush, all reliable airlines were fully booked. The only option left was LANSA Airlines. Juliane's father had repeatedly warned them never to fly with LANSA, calling it unsafe. But they had no alternative, so her mother booked the tickets anyway. At the time, LANSA had a terrible reputation. People joked in Spanish. LANSA se lanza de panza, meaning LANSA falls flat on its belly. Several LANSA planes had crashed in previous years, and this aircraft was one of their last. The plane was a Lockheed L-188 Electra, a turboprop aircraft originally designed for desert routes. Its wings were rigid and tightly attached to the body, making it unable to handle strong turbulence. Because of safety concerns, the aircraft had already been removed from service in the United States, but the passengers didn't know this. The plane was flying over the Andes mountain range, something it was never designed to handle. The fall from the sky. Juliane was seated in seat 19F, the second to last row, next to the window. When the lightning struck, the entire row of 3 seats broke off from the plane. Because Juliane had her seatbelt fastened, she remained strapped to her seat as it fell from 10,000 feet toward the jungle below. What happened next was one of the most unbelievable miracles in human history. As Juliane fell through the air, the noise of the plane and screaming faded away. All she could hear was the roaring wind. The seatbelt dug painfully into her stomach, making it hard to breathe. Below her was the dense Amazon rainforest, so thick that the ground wasn't even visible. It looked like a giant field of broccoli. Mid-fall, Juliane lost consciousness. When she woke up, she found herself lying on the forest floor. It was December 25th, Christmas morning. She had been unconscious all night as rain poured down. Her clothes were soaked in mud. When she tried to stand, she fainted again. After several attempts, she finally managed to stay on her feet. She soon realized her collarbone was broken. Her knee was badly sprained. She had deep wounds on her right shoulder and left calf. One eye was completely swollen shut. Her vision was extremely blurred. Her glasses were gone. One sandal was missing. She had suffered a concussion. How did she survive the fall? 3 miraculous factors saved her life. 1. Updrafts, strong upward winds inside the storm slowed her fall. 2. The seat row spun rapidly while falling, acting like helicopter blades and reducing speed. 3. The dense canopy of the Amazon jungle, with thick leaves and vines, acted like a cushion, preventing a direct impact. Luck also played a crucial role: her body position, direction of fall, and which trees she hit. Despite all this, surviving was extremely rare. No other passengers survived. But Juliane's real danger was just beginning. Alone in the jungle, she called out for her mother. But only heard frogs, insects, and birds. The good news was that the jungle was not unfamiliar to her. She had spent 3 years living at the research station with her zoologist parents. She knew which animals and plants were dangerous and how to think calmly in crises. After resting for a few hours, she began searching for her mother and other passengers. She shouted, "Where are you, Mom?" but got no response. She sometimes heard rescue helicopters, but the jungle was too dense for them to spot her. She realized she was alone and would have to survive by herself. Her immediate needs were water and food. She drank water droplets from leaves. Contrary to popular belief, dense rainforests don't offer much edible food on the ground because sunlight barely reaches the forest floor. Palm fruits grow high up, but climbing was too dangerous. She avoided mushrooms, suspecting they might be poisonous. She found a box of Italian fruitcake from the plain, but rain had ruined it. Later, she found a packet of candies, only 30 pieces. She rationed them carefully, eating only a few each day. She wore a watch gifted by her grandmother. She knew she had to keep moving to survive, but didn't know which direction to go. After wandering near the crash site, she heard the sound of dripping water. She found a small stream emerging from the soil. This was the first ray of hope. Juliane's father had taught her that if you ever get lost in the jungle, find flowing water and follow it. A small stream of water will lead you to a stream. That stream will eventually become a small river. That small river will become a big river, and slowly, if you keep going, sooner or later you will definitely find a human settlement along the riverbank. Juliane only had this one strategy, so she kept walking, following the water. In the terrifying Amazon jungles where 8-foot-long alligators are found, poisonous snakes, spiders, and all kinds of dangerous species live, the 17-year-old girl had set out alone. She didn't even know where to go, whether she would meet anyone or not. She only knew that she had to keep following the water. Now, this sounds quite easy, just keep following the water. But water doesn't always flow through nice places. Fallen trees often block the way. Dense bushes and slippery stones are on the path. This jungle was so dense that one could only move forward by cutting through the bushes. Due to all these reasons, she hadn't been able to move much further when darkness began to fall. She looked at her watch. It was 6 p.m., and now she faced her biggest challenge yet, surviving the night in this dense jungle. Night, any wild animal can attack very easily. Juliane knew that in such a situation, one should sleep in some safe place, where there is a tree or a large rock behind the back so that no animal can attack from behind. Her father had also taught her how to light a fire by rubbing stones and wood together. But alas, this night it was raining very heavily.
Everything was wet, and lighting a fire was impossible. Due to exhaustion and injury, she fell into a very deep sleep. Thankfully, she had slept in a place that was relatively safe. The next day, when she woke up, she had absolutely no energy but she knew that if she wanted to stay alive, she would have to keep walking. Because her glasses were broken, she couldn't see far, so she couldn't take any shortcuts, but she had to keep walking. While walking along the way, she saw a very frightening spider, the Goliath bird eater, the world's largest spider. It is so big that it can even eat small birds. But Juliane knew it was better to keep a distance from such animals. She just kept walking slowly along the water's edge. She didn't find anything new to eat either. On the third day, Juliane finds the first piece of the plane crash wreckage. It was a turbine that had turned completely black on one side. She still heard the sound of rescue planes once or twice during the day. But she was helpless. There was no way to signal to them. As this third day turns into evening, her watch also stops working. On the fourth day, she saw some king vultures. These are known for eating carcasses. Juliane understood that there must be a dead body nearby. Just a little further ahead, she sees a row of plane seats in which 3 people were still strapped in with their seatbelts. These people had fallen headfirst onto the ground with such force that their heads had sunk 3 feet into the ground. And their feet were pointing upwards. It was a very frightening scene. For a moment, Juliane was paralyzed seeing this. Among these 3 was also a woman. Juliane began to fear that maybe this was her mother. Slowly, she stepped forward and tried to look at the corpse's feet by lifting a stick. As she got a little closer, she saw that there was nail polish on the nails. Juliane looked around to see if there was any other body or any injured passenger, but apart from metal pieces, there was nothing else there. She started moving forward again. Kept moving forward along the water's edge. Like this, friends, days passed. She didn't find anything else to eat. Her sense of time was also beginning to fade. She didn't know what time it was. Didn't know which day it was. All days felt the same, and all nights felt the same. She had become so mentally weak that she no longer remembered which day it had become while wandering in the jungle. Juliane kept repeating only one thing in her mind, that she had to keep following the water. Keep following the water. Slowly, the small stream of water turned into a larger stream, and this larger stream turned into a small river. But after so many days, her hunger had now become completely unbearable. All the candies she had were finished. She thought of eating the inside part of palm tree stems, but she didn't have a knife or any sharp tool with which she could do that. She didn't have anything to catch fish with, nor any system to boil roots. Instead of food, she thought she would just manage by drinking river water. Due to the minerals present in this water, her stomach felt full for a while, but after that, hunger would start again. Slowly, she was becoming very weak and hopeless. She didn't know how many more days she could survive in the jungle this way. On the 6th day, Juliane hears the sound of a bird, and hearing this, she suddenly gets a burst of energy. Hearing this sound, she starts walking faster. Actually, this was the sound of a Hoatzin bird, which she had heard before. She knew that this bird makes its nest near open water, close to a large river. This meant that a large river was now very close, and as soon as she took a few more steps, she saw that her stream was now merging into a river. But reaching the bank of this large river was very difficult because the mouth of the stream was blocked by pieces of wood and thick bushes, and it was impossible for Juliane to cross from here. So she turns back and, going through the jungle, crosses this barrier. This took several hours. But finally, she had reached a large river. It was a river about 30 feet wide. After walking in the jungle for so many days, Juliane saw a clear open sky for the first time. But here, there was still no human being as far as the eye could see. For a long time, she had been hearing the sound of rescue planes, but that sound was coming from very far away. But in about half an hour, a plane comes very close. The plane starts passing directly over her. Juliane gets very excited. With great hope, she starts waving towards the plane.
she shouts. But nothing works. The pilot sitting in the plane unfortunately does not see her, and the plane just moves on. Juliane, hoping again, sits here and waits for some other plane to circle back. She would shout and look towards it again. But no other plane comes, and the sound of the distant rescue planes that she had been hearing also stops coming. After a few hours pass, she never hears that sound again. Juliane understood that this meant the rescue search operation had now been called off. Once again, Juliane's courage begins to break. Until now, her target had been to somehow reach the river. But after reaching the river, she now realizes her loneliness. For thousands of kilometers, this jungle is uninhabited. No other human is going to come to save her. She began to feel that her chances of survival here were zero. She was about to give up when she suddenly remembers something her father had told her. Where there is a river, there will be people too. Juliane motivates herself by remembering this, that sooner or later she will reach people if she keeps walking along the riverbank. So with this one last hope, she keeps moving forward. The days keep passing, but with the passing of the days, her condition was also worsening. The wounds on her arm had had flies lay eggs on them. The maggots hatched and started eating themselves deep into my flesh. From those eggs, insects had now started emerging, small maggots. These insects could only be removed from her wound with alcohol or kerosene, but Juliane did not have either of these things. She only had a silver ring of hers. By opening this ring, she tried to remove the insects. But these insects had gone very deep into her skin. Now she started to fear that if this wound got infected, she might even have to cut off her hand. In addition, she looked at the skin on her upper back, which was badly burned. It was now slowly peeling off, and blood was also oozing from there. She could do nothing about all these problems. So she did what was in her hands, keep moving forward along the riverbank. After some time, she realized that instead of slowly walking along the riverbank, why not jump into the river and just swim? So she jumps into the river and floats along with the river's current. After floating in the river for hours, she sees the roof of a house, and a little later, she hears the sound of a chicken. But friends, both of these things were not true. Actually, she was hallucinating. As it started getting dark, she came out of the river to take shelter, and then as soon as the next morning dawned, she jumped back into the river. For the next few days, she kept doing this, and doing this was by no means without danger. One day, when she was lying on the riverbank, a large female alligator started moving towards her in an attacking position. Here, once again, Juliane's knowledge of the jungle came in handy. She knew that this type of alligator does not attack in the water. She went straight into the water and started floating again with the current. After doing this repeatedly for many days, she had become weaker due to the cold water. Food was still a big problem. She tried to catch and eat frogs, but by now she had become so weak that she couldn't even catch a frog. Later, while walking along the riverbank, she also found various animals like deer, and this was not a good sign at all. Juliane knew that this type of animal is not found near human settlements. By the time the 10th day arrived, she had almost completely lost hope. Juliane now didn't have much left to keep herself motivated. Now she truly felt that she probably wouldn't survive. Another whole day passed like this, swimming in the river. The sun went down. It started getting dark. She came out of the river and started resting on the sand on the bank when she saw something. A large boat was parked ahead. Was this another hallucination? She couldn't believe her eyes. Rubbing her eyes, she looked again. The boat was still visible. She rubbed her eyes 3 times and looked. The boat was visible to her every time. Swimming a little more, she got closer to the boat. She touched it. Only then did she believe that yes, this was really a boat. Next to the boat, she saw a small path going upwards. Juliane gathered all the remaining strength in her body and started climbing that path. Above, there was a hut. As soon as she reached that hut and peeked inside, no one was visible. Actually, there was no human present there. But petrol was kept inside the hut.
Juliane took out some petrol through a small tube and poured it directly onto the wound on her hand to remove the maggots on her hand. Doing this caused her immediate, intense pain because the worms, to escape the petrol, tried to burrow deeper into her body. Slowly, the worms started coming out, and as she pulled them out one by one, she started counting and realized that there were 30 worms, 30 maggots embedded there. Juliane decided that she would wait inside this hut for someone to come. Night fell. After night, morning came, but no one came. She thought again whether she should try to move forward, but there was absolutely no strength left in her body. For the rest of the day, she just sat there, dejected and exhausted. But that evening, as it started getting dark, she heard some voices. Human voices. Juliane thought she might be hallucinating again, but then she saw 3 people coming out of the jungle. As soon as these people saw Juliane, they stepped back in fear. A white girl in torn clothes, with swollen eyes and so many wounds on her body. They thought she might be some demon. Friends, in the Amazon jungle, people have many mythological stories, like in every culture. They believe in Yakamama, a very large anaconda, called the Mother of Water, like a water goddess.
Hasta un barco le puede hacer hundir. Existe, son reales.
They had heard many stories about her, and seeing this girl in this condition here, they truly thought this was Yakamama. Juliane, seeing them, mustered all her courage and tried to speak. She said in Spanish, "I am a girl who survived the LANSA plane crash. My name is Juliane." Hearing this, those people couldn't believe it. They told her that everyone had died in that plane crash. They had heard it in the news. If you are really a survivor of that plane crash, then that means you are the sole survivor who is alive. Hearing this, Juliane's heart sank. She realized that this meant her mother had not survived either. Throughout this entire journey, she had hoped that her mother would also be alive, and this gave her motivation. But now, it was very difficult for Juliane to finally digest that her mother was no more. It was another huge miracle that on this evening, Juliane encountered these 3 people. These people were actually going somewhere else and had only decided to stop at this hut due to heavy rain. They gave Juliane a shirt and pants to wear and farina, a type of roasted flour, to eat. They also cleaned her wounds and removed the worms from them. Meanwhile, 2 more people had arrived there. All these people took Juliane to a village the next day. When the village people saw Juliane for the first time, they also got scared because all the blood vessels in her eyes had burst, making her eyes completely red. In the village, her wounds were cleaned further and disinfected. From here, Juliane was taken to Yaramcocha by plane, where doctors gave her better treatment. A few days later, Juliane returned home alive and safe. In total, she fought death for 11 days. Surviving alone in the dense jungles of the Amazon. This amazing story stunned the whole world. Such an incredibly miraculous story that a 17-year-old girl, who fell from 10,000 feet in the middle of the Amazon jungle, survived alone in the dangerous jungle for 11 days. Juliane came out of the Amazon jungle, but the jungle never left her. Later, she went on to study biology at the University of Kiel and became a famous mammalogist, just like her mother. She spent her whole life conserving the Amazon jungles and its animals. In the year 2000, after her father passed away, she became the director of the Panguana Research Station and started taking care of it. The same research station that her parents had started. Today in 2025, Juliane Koepcke is a famous mammalogist. She is 71 years old and still alive. In a 2010 interview, she said that for many years after this incident, she had nightmares at night. Terrifying dreams. She kept seeing the people who were on that plane that day. One thought always haunted her: why me? Why did only I survive and why not the others? The answer to this is perhaps hidden in her own courage and determination. Later, when the investigative team reached the crash site, they found, friends, that 14 more people had survived the crash. 14 more people who were alive after the plane crash but died waiting for rescue. But Juliane remembered her knowledge, her courage, and the things taught by her parents, implemented them, and carved her own path. She did not give up until the very end. And perhaps that was the difference between her and everyone else. We should all learn a lesson from this story. No matter how difficult situations come in our lives, remember this story and think, challenges like Juliane's will never come. If a 17-year-old girl can struggle so much to deal with all these troubles, then you can certainly deal with your troubles.